Hello everyone, it's Danny. Today we will be discussing about Dendrobium orchids once again, and more specifically about the nobile types. Now, I do read quite a lot of stuff on the internet. I don't believe there is such a thing as knowing everything about an orchid or knowing too much, and I always get new ideas. So I was reading the other day a blog, it's a local blog, which was stating quite a peculiar idea, and this refers to cutting the old cane of a Dendrobium nobile. Now, the suggested idea was that cutting old and possibly a bit shriveled canes can actually induce the orchid into producing more flowers than usual. Now, I did research this topic and I did not find this idea anywhere else on the internet, well, as much as I searched for, so I started to think about things and think if this makes any logic, and here's my idea on things. Now, for the main part, I really did not find any logic idea to support the fact that an orchid can actually bloom more if the old canes are cut, and I have a few reasons to believe this. If you didn't know, Dendrobium nobile orchids produce buds from the new canes, but as well from the old canes. If they have available eyes, like you see here, they will produce another set of buds, if they go through the dormancy period, of course. So if I cut the old canes, I might miss out on some possible flowers. So this pretty much bumps heads with the idea that an orchid will produce more flowers if you cut the old canes. Now, second of all, if the orchid has multiple canes, it has more energy. Now, in that blog, it was stated that because the old canes were consuming energy, the new canes will not have enough energy to produce multiple flower buds. Now, I think this is a bit wrong to assume, and let me tell you why. As you can see, the old canes will most probably lose most of their leaves, if not all of them, like this one here. So their energy uptake is kind of minimal compared to a new cane, which has most probably more leaves and is producing more buds. Since the old one already has a few eyes that already bloomed, it will most probably not produce too many buds. So my conclusion is that the old cane does not consume as much energy as a new cane, which has more leaves and produces more flowers. I actually believe it's quite the opposite way. Since the old pseudobulb does retain moisture and nutrients, it actually feeds the new growth. Inevitably, it feeds the buds that are forming. So cutting the old pseudobulb will actually deplete the orchid of some energy. And third of all, if something happens to this orchid, let's say you manage to rot the root system and you actually cut the old canes, the new canes will definitely not have enough energy to grow to their full potential, and they will not have enough energy to grow fast and actually manage to reach maturity and bloom for you. So the old canes are actually plan B for the orchid. If something happens to the new growths, there is the old cane, which is also capable of producing more new growths and also feed them. If you cut the old cane, most probably you will not have a fast-growing orchid, and certainly you will have an orchid which is kind of depleted of energy. Now, my orchid does have a few canes, old canes, which seem to be cut. I did not cut them. I actually purchased this orchid in this way, but I do not believe they were cut because they wanted to induce more blooming. There might be two possible reasons. One could be the aesthetics of the orchid. If you have some bare old canes, it might not look pretty and people might not buy it. But a second option would be to actually propagate this orchid. Dendrobium orchids in general can be propagated through sections of the old cane. Theoretically, every node is capable of producing flower buds or keikis, and I think nurseries use this method as a fast propagation method, because an orchid from a seed will develop into a mature orchid in a lot of time compared to a keiki produced by a section of the cane. This is at least what I believe, and probably this is why these old canes were cut. Now, as for the idea that cutting old canes will leave more energy for the new canes to produce buds, I really don't think this applies. Now, take a look at my Dendrobiums. Now, I will give you that they're not absolutely full of buds everywhere, but I think under the conditions of your usual home grower with your usual conditions, with uneven moisture and possibly some vacations, I believe this is a decent amount of buds. I mean, I could really not ask more from this orchid than the buds it already has, and most probably when it's gonna bloom, it will look pretty glorious, I have to admit. But anyway, this is just my opinion, and if you ever see it written somewhere, just please give me the link because I would like to investigate this problem further. In any case, if it were true, I don't think I am comfortable with cutting the old canes and leaving my orchid vulnerable. If something happens to the root system of this orchid, it will take a long time for it to adjust and recuperate from the damage. Most probably I will have a season with no blooms, so I'm not really willing to take that risk. Okay, so this was my idea on cutting old canes. What do you guys believe? Did you ever hear this idea, or do you know something about nurseries cutting old canes to induce more flowers? So just let me know your opinions in a comment below. As well, if you have questions for me, just leave me a comment, but please make sure in your G+ settings that people outside your circles can reply to you, otherwise I cannot reply. So if you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos, just subscribe to my channel, and thank you for joining. I'll see you next time. Bye!